And it's just, you can
carriages
see him
running
on it.
with explosions behind them and yes. Come on.
There's a reason why Frank Langella says that this and Masters of the Universe are his favorite movies. Like, he's in the action, like, he's such a cool villain, and I love
he's
his
having a
sword
blast fight in this film.
Right?
Langella is
love this!
he's screaming at this guy, he's yelling at everyone, he's eating as much scenery as it isn't being destroyed. He's my highlight of the whole thing. I loved every scene. Every time he's on screen, he's like, yes! Dog's back! Let's go!
And that's a sweet sleeveless shirt that he's wearing, too. Like, he looks cool in this movie. He
looks like a badass leather pirate wandering around the Caribbean. Look at the plot of this, air quotes. The plot of this, the idea of, okay, there's a map to a treasure. Standard, right? Pirate movie basic. That there's 3 pieces, that each of the brothers has a piece, and that the whole point of this is let's collect the pieces and find the treasure. I love it. Very straightforward, very basic, easy to grasp, and then let's fill the rest in with action.
Oh no, and what even let's flavour that with, like, one of the maps. It's on a guy's head. And so the opening scene, it's off screen, but Geena Davis has to shave and then scalp her father. And then you have this human scalp skin for the rest of the film. Keeps being tossed around and everyone's like looking at it like, this is perfectly normal. There's no problem here. This is clearly a human head.
I feel like this is a good point to bring up that I've seen the movie The Pillow Book, which I don't know if either. I've
seen The Pillow Book twice.
I hate it so much,
Me too.
and I'm angry that I saw it, so I feel the need to bring it up whenever I feel like it's applicable. There you go.
It's on the 1,001 movies list. I watched it once with the intention to review it. Didn't review it. Watched it a second time with the intention to review it. Still have not reviewed it, which means I'm probably...
What can you say about it?
Probably going to have to watch it again, or just try and use my notes and a year's worth of memory. Since
it's the only thing.
Yeah.
The color indigo is splendid. And I say that often, it's from that frickin' movie, but my goodness. In any case, yes, creating readable items out of people's skin. There you go. If you're not sure why I brought up the Pillow Book, there you go.
And then the second part of the map is this is the one I had more problem with. It's in a barrel that's housing some eels in a location that is full of barrels. There's so many barrels, and most of them get destroyed, including that one, during a fight. And how often does a fight break out here and these barrels get destroyed and he has to get that map found and remade? He has to contact a carpenter to do it, to engrave it again? I don't know. That seemed odd to have one done on a bit of barrel, but fine. It's a fun film.
The idea of these maps, I mean, they're not in easy places. So these guys were really considering, we're just going to hang on to this until we die.
But then Langella is just round his neck. He's got no imagination. Tattoo it to your head.
He knew from the beginning that he was going to steal the whole treasure for himself.
Yes, true. And his one is the detail one. When you get to the island, leads you to the treasure from the. He just didn't know where the island is. So.
Do we know the order of these 3 brothers? Is he the oldest?
I don't think it was ever specified.
That's a great question.
It's not really important, but I just wondered if you're the oldest, you get to dictate. I get the easy part of the map. You're not putting it on my scalp.
Those other guys looked in much worse shape than him, right? So that's a good question.
Maybe he's the youngest.
Maybe. But he's also just Langella, so maybe he's just in shape anyway.
He's the best. You remember when he dated Whoopi Goldberg for a while?
What?
Langella did?
Is that right, or am I making that up?
Well, she dated Danson, too. Ted Danson.
Yes, I knew that.
Let me just check to see if I'm making this up.
But I gotta tell you, one of my favorite moments in this movie is this when he goes, I love this! Like, it's just, it's
That's
such a
what
good
you were
moment.
saying for the whole...
Wikipedia agrees that he was Whoopi 96 to 2001. So just after making this film.
They met on the movie Eddie, and then they were dating for a while, and then, yes, there you go.
Oh, they made Eddie together. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Eddie is a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, she becomes a basketball coach, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with this one.
Whoopi Goldberg had a very underappreciated run in the 80s and 90s. I don't think people realize how much money. I don't think people realize how much money Sister Act made. And then
I think people do. I think Sister Act is the one people do.
Yeah.
What about before that? What about Jumpin' Jack Flash?
Yeah, she was a brand.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, people need to appreciate that. But also I want to say, I love how Dog has Snellgrave, the guy with the like one arm, and then he also has Toussaint, who's like another villain that I thought was pretty cool. And then I love that the good guys, they have their own crew, like Mr. Glasspool, Mr. Blair, Rex Lynn, who was in Cliffhanger.
Mr. Glasspool, Stan Shaw from Daylight.
Oh, nice!
George from Daylight.
Yeah. It's a key to a pirate movie. If you have a good pirate movie, yes, you need your lead pirate and then your villain, but you must also have a believable crew around your lead pirate that you can also be like, well, I enjoy this crew.
Yeah, it's the problem I had with The Abyss last week, where the crew on that one pretty forgettable for the most part. They all look very similar for the most part. Whereas here, everyone here they all, a lot of them are dressed the same when they're aboard the pirate ships. Only it's just this kind of sea of brown across the clothing, but they all have different looks to them, or different. Like Mark said, one of them hasn't got an arm; he's got a giant chain, like he's that guy from Hellboy 2.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Wink.
Something
Mr. Wink,
yes,
I want to say.
That's right. I was like, wait, that guy is also Mr. Something.
So I do love the memorable characters, and you can kind of just see them by the look of them and think, okay, it's that guy. You can tell them apart, but when they're all dressed the same, which we couldn't do last week on The Abyss. So.
And Captain Trotter, I like him a lot too. Like, he's hilarious, and just there's not much money in the army, and he becomes a pirate, and then they make him go do work for 12 hours, like he has to go look out or something. But I love this. I don't know. This movie's filled to the brim with just likable characters, explosions, and do you think while watching this movie is so wildly earnest and unpretentious that I think people can start making fun of it because of that. Like if you go into this to watch it ironically, you could see some of these line readings as clumsy or, moments as kind of clumsy. But I think that might work against it because there's really no irony in this movie at all. So
yeah, that's just it. I don't think, because I think questioning the acting has been part of the belittlement of this movie, and I don't think you can. I think they're just be like, yeah, I'm just going to read this line and then go through this explosion. So, yeah, that's...
It's and also I gotta tell y'all a funny story. I'm all over the place with this movie. I'm pinballing, but the costume designer, this is kind of a funny story. Enrico Sabatini, Renny Harlin on the commentary said that he made such good costumes. Like everything was just how it would have been. You had to tie up your laces, but at the end when they're dropping the pirates into the water, the guy who took over Morgan's boat,
Jimmy Skaggs.
But yeah, Skaggs.
That's the actor's name, Jimmy Skaggs.
The boots were so good, though. They were like knee high, waist high, and a lot of them were so good that a lot of water got sucked into them, and so all the stuntmen started screaming for help. And like Renny Harlin and his crew thought like, oh, they're just acting, but then it turns out they were actually kind of sinking because their shoes wouldn't they couldn't take their shoes off and they were filling up with water. So there was just a bunch of drowning stuntmen that they had to go rescue because their boots were too official to take off, and they collected a lot of water and they were sinking. But I think that's kind of a funny story about that. So the boots had so much detail they almost drowned stuntmen.
Not many films can say that.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is I kind of had forgotten this movie came before Long Kiss Goodnight. I think I kind of in my brain assumed Long Kiss Goodnight came first because that
another beautiful movie.
Fantastic movie. Maybe not better, but probably more successful.
Definitely more successful. Yeah.
I thought it came first, and then this. I thought this led to their divorce. It did not.
They had like hot air balloons at their wedding and like elephants.
Of course they did.
And
would you expect any less from Renny Harlin?
That's a great point. No, not at all. I just and also with this movie and Long Kiss Goodnight, there was really in the 90s, there weren't that many like female-led action films.
And that's just it, right? Because if you read all the bits and trivia about this movie, that so many times there were things said and people went, well, it's got a female lead, so female-led action movies won't be successful, which is not at all the case. And again, it's nonsense anytime someone tries to bring that up. A good movie is a good movie regardless of who's in the lead. And I think, as you mentioned, that thing with Michael Douglas, like not wanting to be a co-lead, wanting to be his own lead. And so that's a piece of it too. I love that Geena Davis is the lead of this movie. Period. Matthew Modine is the sidekick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's the dude in distress.
Exactly. Yeah, I love the gender reversal. Normally, like he is perpetually being captured and stuck and jammed underneath something and in need of rescue, and she's the one who rescues him every time.
Yep.
They take this. I love in the first time when we meet him, he's robbing everybody, and then he goes to make this big jump, and you think he's going to pull a Captain Jack Sparrow and escape, but he just jumps down and gets cornered by more people.
He just jumps down into people.
Then he gets slapped on the back of the head. The guy's like, "You idiot!" and he smacks him in the back of the head for doing it.
Yeah, he is terrible. He is a con man and a swindler, and terrible at both.
Because he was poor. He grew up poor.
There you go. Character development.
But
Grew
that
up poor.
takes.
Excellent. Moving on.
But that takes. I know this sounds bad, but I like when actors don't take their ego into a role. Because in this one, there's a scene where there's a big fight breaking out in a bar, and he goes, "Morgan," and he throws her a sword.
Yeah.
Like he knows she'll do the damage.
Yep.
But I know I shouldn't applaud somebody for being selfless in their roles, but a lot of people don't do that. So it's kind of nice to see something like this. It's refreshing.
Are you perhaps referencing some actors who have things in their contracts where none of them are allowed to lose a fight now?
Oh,
absolutely. I love that franchise so much that I refuse to say it. But yeah, they don't lose. They don't and then
he can fight. He can fight 30 people and a building, and it's a tie.
In the building, in fall, and the only thing that happens is you get a flashback to key plot points.
Yeah.
I just love it. This movie when he jumps down and then just gets caught by more people. It just made, and then you rarely see that. Someone's like, "I'm gonna make a daring escape," and they just get smacked in the back of the head.
Yeah, it's
for
great.
being annoying. Beautiful.
Yeah, it truly establishes him as the subsidiary, secondary character, which is wonderful.
Oh gosh, I love it. And then, but like, also too, he's involved in a lot of the stunts as well. And he said he loved being on set. Like they just got to jump off massive boats. They only built one boat, and they would redecorate it to be the good and bad boat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so I thought that was pretty interesting. Like $1 million boat.
Right, and they saved money by hiring him, because after Douglas dropped out, they hired Modine because he was already a qualified fencer.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, I'm glad you read that. And remember that scene where he's fighting? Like, you got to kill him. He's like, well, we never got that far.
The best.
And then, okay, this is a movie where they introduce weird eels as like a torture device.
Yes,
these eels. This barrel that they're in explodes. They get loose, and during the fight scene, you see an eel bite. I had to pause it. An eel is biting a guy's leg, and the guy's going, ah! He's like shaking his leg with the eel that escaped from earlier latched onto him. And that's the kind of movie this is. They introduce a weird torture device eels. Those eels get loose, and as a throwaway gag during a brawl, you see it biting a guy. And the guy's jumping around going, oh my gosh! Oh, it's so good.
Fantastic.
Did you see that scene when the eel was doing that or no?
I'm going to have to go back and watch that.
It's hilarious. The eel's biting a guy, and he's like, oh my gosh!
I love that someone on set was like, you know what, let's not forget about the eels.
Yeah, we bought them. We might as well attach them to somebody for a good gag here.
It's going to be the eel puppeteer. Is like, well, what are the eels doing in this scene? They got to be doing something. They got to be in the fight. Let's go. So that in that scene, that's when she's meeting up with the second map owner, her other uncle. When I was watching that scene, I was thinking, it felt odd. I don't know who the actor is who played him, but he didn't seem. No offense to the guy, he didn't seem to be filling the role. I just made a note of it. He just seemed like lesser. And
he seems stationary.
Yeah, but that role was supposed to be Oliver Reed, which made a lot of sense to me. Like, they meant to have somebody more Oliver Reed in this role, and that would have been wonderful. But he got so drunk and mooned Geena Davis on set that they fired him. So,
well, that'll do it. Yeah,
that'll do it. I feel like the film did suffer because of this, but I completely understand their reasoning and don't blame them at all. That's not how you behave in civil society.
I love that story. I remember reading that, just like, geez Louise.
That's Oliver Reed for you. Unprofessional to the dust.
But I don't know. You watch this movie, and Renny Harlin just said that it was like his dream come true, and like you said, you see everything in this movie. There's even a scene